guys catching? Perch. All right. Okay, and we're back. Circuits with feelings. You know, in this vlog, cover everything from music production, music to picture, electronic music, electronic performance. We get to interview some interesting people in all of those worlds, do some technical deep dives, and then also talk about the life, the trials and tribulations of being a scoring composer and an artist. Today, we're going to cover a very interesting aspect of the whole thing, music editors and the role they play within putting music to picture. It's a very, very important role, and we have a very interesting person to talk to, Chris Newlin, who is the music editor on the Dick Wolf Productions team, doing Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, FBI, and Chicago Med. They have a whole big post-production facility on the Universal lot, and I met him when I was out in LA recently. I met him for a cup of coffee. We talked about how he got into it, what their workflow is like, working with their composer and their team of composers. Mixed in there, I'm gonna kind of compare what they're doing with what it's like developing themes for more of a particular long form, in this case a documentary, and the different considerations that go into developing themes for those different kinds of shows. Specifically, thinking about themes, traditionally we think about it as a melody, you know, a sweeping melody like a Star Wars theme or something like that. A theme can also be more of a little compact piece of systems music, like the Philip Glass sort of approach. Sometimes a theme is just a pulsing rhythm or a pulsing chord, and sometimes it's just a drone or a sound design element. The composer who did the music for the recent Chernobyl series, which was really interesting. So I'm going to put the timestamp to where I go ahead and I'm going to actually give a little example from a session that I'm working on right now that's more systems music based, ostinatos and things like that. So follow that timestamp if you want to go there. And then we're going to jump into our interview with Chris here in a second. I'm down close to the Indiana-Illinois border by Gary, Indiana. And I don't know if you can see it, but there are still quite a few steel mills out over there. This is a decommissioned steel mill, and it must be more than a mile long, or these huge concrete columns. They turned this one into a climbing wall, which is kind of cool. That's the story today. So I was in LA and I got to interview the one that is already posted with Tice. I have the one with Chris, and then I have another one from the LA trip. And then I was just in New York and I got to interview a composer friend of mine. So that one will be coming up. And then it was also cool. I went on that Spitfire hike across the Brooklyn Bridge while I was there and got to meet some of the guys from the Spitfire team. I'm a bit of a fanboy, so a little embarrassed by how much that is so, but what are you gonna do? But I got to meet Christian, talk to him. I actually was in his video for quite a while. I kind of forgot he had video running, and I hope I didn't make too much of a fool of myself, but it was really fun to meet him. Great guys, and so that was a cool little trip. So let's jump into the interview with Chris. So I'm here, this neighborhood is called Montrose, is that right? Yeah. And I'm with Chris Newlin, who is a music editor for Chicago Fire, PD,
Med, and FBI. Yeah.
And it's also cool because he is a guitar nerd and a synth nerd, so kind of dovetails with a lot of what we've been talking about on my vlog. So figured we'd have a chat, talk about what he's doing, what his workflow is like. So how did you, what was your progression to get into what you're doing now?
I started out playing in bands, you know.
Did you grow up here?
Southern California, yeah.
Okay.
So did the band thing there, then started playing all the Hollywood, Whiskey, Roxy, you know, the usual Viper Room. So did the band thing, went to school, was a music industry studies major at Cal State Northridge. That kind of introduced me to a few things. So after college, band thing wasn't panning out. And my roommate was actually working with some music editors, and they were pretty busy at the time, and asked me to come on, and I kind of learned on the job.
Yeah.
And then I had interns at one point at a music library, and they were interested in possibly training me to be a music editor. Worked with them for a few years and kind of learned Pro Tools much deeper. Yeah.
Was that on a particular show or at a particular studio, or where was that?
It was two music editors, Dan DePrima and Oliver Hug, and they had a company at the time called Snack Time.
All right.
And so I was like there to just kind of help out with whatever. It's like there was a lot of importing of CDs.
Yeah.
At the time, we'd have to like rip quick times off of DVDs.
Things took so much longer back then.
I would deal with all the deliverables and make CDs of all the final score stuff.
Yeah.
We did a few different projects when I was with a lot of different projects. When I started, they were doing Sleeper Cell, which was a TV show for Showtime.
Yeah.
I did another show with them, Threshold, and they had a bunch of different features going on at the time as well. And then at some point, the composer from Sleeper Cell's Paul Hassinger, who was in Tangerine Dream and tying it in with the synths and everything. He was looking for an assistant to come in. His guy was leaving, and he had a guy who played guitar and had a kind of random set of skills. And I was kind of going into that mold a little bit, and so I jumped from them to Paul and kind of was on the composer side for about 4 years with Paul. Ended up being music editor on a bunch of his films, but also like kind of got me back into playing guitar because I kind of left it a little bit after the band thing broke up. It wasn't inspiring or interesting to me, and did some additional music for him. Played guitar on like Death Race and did some cues on Underworld and X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, I think I saw on your IMDb, I was seeing some of that stuff.
Yeah. So that was a really cool time because it was like, oh, I can make music again. For something that interests me, and because I knew I had an affinity towards the music editing side of things. It seemed like a good fit for me, my personality, whatever level of talent I had.
So you have a setup at home right now where you're with a pretty wide variety of synths, I take it?
Yeah.
How far down the rabbit hole have you gone?
When you spend many hours on a dub stage, and you got nothing to do but browse the internet, sometimes you end up buying too much gear, as you know how it goes.
Have you gone down the modular thing yet at all, or have you avoided that?
I've purposely kept myself away from that. I know I have a very addictive personality, and I also don't know if I have the brain capacity for it, but I do want to get like maybe a small kit at some point and just kind of experiment with it. But being a guitar player, sometimes it's nicer to just have a key and a knob or two to twist. So I've got my Sub 37, I've got a Prophet 6, things of that nature that seem to go well with a guitar player brain. I don't have to think too much, and you can get really good sounds out of them. There
are some really cool like semi-modular things out there. Like there's one called a Deluge, where it's a synth voice, a sequencer built in together, and then it's like the Mother 32, and then some patch points.
I've been seeing that pop up a lot more on Instagram these days. It looks very interesting. I've been trying to tell myself not to buy stuff. But I still keep buying pedals.
It's the same sickness. So what are you working on now? You're in the middle. You were just telling me you're in the middle of the season, or the...
we're about 5 episodes into all the Wolf Film shows. I'm actually making sure that I'm not getting text messages about the executive producer looking at stuff right now. Didn't realize he was going to be doing that. So so we've been going about 6-7 days a week. We just finished the crossover, which is like one storyline through all shows. It all airs on one night, basically.
So the shows are back to back, and the storylines kind of intermingle.
Specifically on the crossover, the rest of the weeks, occasionally the characters will show up here and there, but there's not like from one episode to the next like a continuing storyline. And this one that we just did was pretty big and required a lot of like managing like the themes and making sure we had a through line through the whole thing, and it was a big apocalyptic disaster type situation where there was a flesh-eating disease that was going to take over Chicago. So that was it was a particular new challenge for us.
And then you guys work with one music shop that kind of that scores all of the shows. One guy.
So Otley Overson is our composer. and he does all the shows, and he's got a team of guys that all work under him, and so between myself, Otley, and his guys, we kind of try to handle all these shows. And I did quick math last week after the crossover. Between the crossover and FBI, I think we generated, between me, the other music editor, Dane Leone, and Otley and his team, we generated 136 minutes of music in about a week.
Wow.
So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's been a pretty insane little machine that we've built.
So what's
to do these, and do fixes quickly too, because a lot of times the producer, not a lot of times, almost every time the producer doesn't see the stuff until the final mix. So we could be in the final mix playback, essentially respotting the show. There could be tonal things that maybe he wants to play differently, more emotional, more edgy, that kind of stuff.
So what's the process like from when a season starts? And now that these shows are established, I assume there are some themes or things that are kind of some bread and butter things that you go back to.
Yeah.
But do you, at the beginning of a season, do you kind of work on some new material that's gonna, or is it an episode by episode thing?
Some of it's episode by episode. I think Otley and his team, every season we go into it knowing, okay, new year, new season, new challenges for all the characters, and we want to establish, we keep it within the same sound of the shows, but freshen it up and keep it interesting because, we're in season 8 of Chicago Fire now, and, whatever we can do to keep it interesting both for the audience and for ourselves, trying to just push what we can do in these quick turnarounds. We got about a week to do these, and
I was going to ask,
each episode's anywhere from 23 to 24 minutes to 32, 33 minutes of music on each episode. And we're doing 4 shows a week right now, and there's soon to be a 5th show. So,
wow. So you, how long are you involved in the spotting of the episode with the composers, or?
Well, on any normal show, that would be the case. Our shows, because Otley has a long-standing relationship with Arthur Fournier, our executive producer, there's kind of a bit of an understanding of we know what to do, and Arthur trusts us, which is amazing because I don't think that exists anywhere else in television or film, where the executive producer trusts Otley, and to a certain degree myself, to get the music in every week, present it to him in the best possible ways, and maybe he'll change some things here and there. Sometimes he changes a lot of things, but usually it's, a couple
You're
of
going
things.
down the right cul-de-sac.
Yeah, we know we're not going to completely miss the bullseye. So we don't spot with him. I mean, when we start a new series, we generally meet with him, talk about the music, the style, and what we want to do thematically, and then we'll present stuff to him. But again, on any normal show, you would spot the show, you would do a score preview, whether that's going to the composer's studio and watching the show down and talking about it, or myself as a music editor would make quick time, send that to the producers, and you'd get feedback on the score. We just bypass all that. We basically have enough time to write the music, show it on the final dub, and then after we play back, we fix whatever we need to fix.
So I'm going to give you an example of more of the ostinato-based theme material. I did an initial pass at kind of the main theme, approaching it more as a melody, a traditional melody, and it was kind of working. So we wanted to keep things intimate and not, too grand and overly cinematic, but still interesting with some futuristic elements that would kind of help our story out, processing things, reversing things. So I already knew that was going to be a part of it. So there's a little bit of that going on, but the melodic shape was still pretty traditional. So this is kind of where I started. So there are some process things in there. So the piano is kind of my theme. So I thought I could build off of that. So anyway, anyways, enough of that. So that's where we started. And the director just thought it was feeling too broad, too melodramatic. That was my clue that a traditional theme might not be the way to go with this, and maybe what we needed to do was pursue more of the systems music, repetitive ostinato sort of approach. So we ended up with this now that seems to be working pretty well. Kind of the same sonic world. And that's really it. It's the shift between the major and minor keys. So really, it's the 3 against 2 pattern and the shift from the G minor to the G major. I know a lot of different guys do this, but I'm jealous of people in Cubase that have multiple lanes of notes and different things that they can make on their score. But I did find a cheat where you can at least have 2 within Logic, where you can make, what I'll do is this top row are just kind of scoring notes, what's happening, what I want to do, and I'll make those as markers. And then if you go over here to the marker, you can say convert to arrangement markers, and that will take whatever you've made as a marker and flip it up to this arrangement lane. So then it can free up the marker lane for you to then go in and add other information. So what I typically do is start out by kind of spotting it, what I want to do where, and then flip it up to the arrangement area, clear out the markers, and then in the markers I'll use that to put in my musical information, whatever I need to kind of let me know what's going on. Typically, like here, and then what I do, so for this one, I think I've mentioned this before, I typically write with just an electric piano sound. And I just, came up with the patterns that were going to work for me. So it's really just a 3 against 2. So that's how I start, come up with my patterns and phrases. And it's just shifting the timing of it, and that's it. So that is my theme, and it appears throughout this project in different forms, and I can make it more traditional, and I can add a melody over the top of it, but that's kind of the and we're also doing a lot of processing where things are reversed and whatnot, but that's really the essence of it. But maybe I'll show you some of the ways I'm realizing it real fast. So I think I started pretty early on with a guitar track. So it's kind of playing the top 3-note pattern. And I sent that to my iPad app, the sampler, and kind of performed that back as a granular sort of thing, which you've seen me do before. So kind of making a pad out of that sound, so together those are. And here I'm kind of using it at the end of phrases. Okay. It's all the audio down there. I did do some, I'm using my PPG a lot, just kind of to add a little shimmer on the top. And the PPG is great because you can get some nice bell-like tones out of it that are digital, but also have a curiously organic quality to them. A very 80s sound, but it seems to be working in this context. Here it is. Pretty quiet. Total 80s sound, right? In context. It's pretty quiet. And I'm also using my Deckard's Dream for some of the pad and tonal things. I think you really hear that at the beginning. And that sounds like nice traditional warm analog. Has a nice warble to it. Then I had Jim Galleretto and his wife are helping me out with some of the live instruments on this right now, and I'll be adding some more, but we just did kind of a first test run. And Jill played the cello. Just for shits and giggles, this is the BBC Spitfire BBC cello leader. I really like their legatos in the new BBC orchestra, but it still does not compare to the real deal, does it? You got someone playing your line. So this is Jill. And then Jim on clarinet and piccolo. So that's a nice texture in there. And then I'm trying to do as much sampling as possible for this of other things as well to create instruments. So I cannot play the ocarina, which is what this is. I know Howard Levy, if you've ever heard him, amazing ocarina player among many other things, but can barely get a tone out of it. But I sampled it, and it's very crude, but it has a thing, so I'm using that in here, and that's being doubled by the live piccolo that I tracked. So that's the sample of my ocarina. And I also sampled my guitar. I'm playing guitar, but then I also sampled it to get this kind of different sound. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And I'm using some Spitfire like things from the that guitar library they have. And I think I'm using their Hauschka, how do you say it? Hauschka library as well for some of the just the little punctuating things that come in and out. You can hear the ping pong on the piano thing. I don't know where this is from. Yeah, ambient guitars as well. But that's about it. So that is an example, though, of the core of what's happening is just that very tight, repetitive figure. And it's really the shifting between the minor and the major that gives it the mood that I think is going to work. So that's it. That's an example of what I would say is kind of more of a ostinato based melodic theme. So there you have it. So the
Between
music,
myself and-
so they deliver the music to you. Does it kind of come in as they're working on it, and you're laying it in to your Pro Tools session?
We do everything through Dropbox, and so the
Okay.
second Otley or one of his guys uploads a piece of music for me, it's on
Yeah.
all my systems. I have two systems at the mix stages, Universal, and I have my home studio set up. So wherever I'm at, I instantly have the
Right.
cue. I can pull it in, get it to the stage.
So during the week, you're kind of slowly putting all the pieces in place.
It's always so weird because you go like, oh, we got a mix in a day or two, and
There's
I
nothing
have
in
no,
there.
no, I don't have any music, and then all of a sudden it just your session starts filling in, and you're like, oh, we're gonna be fine, you know.
And
But,
do they and they give it to you just as stems, or are they giving it to you within a Pro Tools session?
They
or
just
template?
upload the stems, and we do a 5/1 stem out. Some of the shows, I think we have about 10 stems, and on the newer show FBI, we're about 14 wide. And
Wow.
we have two stereos in there, like we have like a bass drone and a bass rhythm stem in stereo, and then the rest is all 5/1.
Okay. And then how long, once you start at the actual mix, how long does that process take, just for one show?
We generally are 3-day mixes on our shows.
Okay.
Depending on various factors, they can spill into a 4th day, occasionally a 5th day.
Yeah.
And so like we have a lot of ADR and stuff like that
Right.
in the show, or they have to make a lot of changes, or there's reshoots.
Yeah.
But they have so many shows now, we are able to kind of like, the mix teams, we have 3 different mix teams right now, and you kind of have to be a little bit modular. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe one of the mixers is actually working on Chicago Fire while the
Yeah.
other one's working on Chicago PD, or spend a couple hours in the morning, when you run out of something to do on that, you switch to the other show.
Right.
It's very not traditional in that sense, and it takes a unique crew and having even keeled personalities
Yeah.
and the ability to, like I said, be modular.
Yeah, when I was there in the spring, I was kind of struck by how low-key and friendly everybody was. I expected it to be kind of a little on edge, but everyone's just kind of very chill about it. And
Yeah, you have to be a bit
Yeah.
zen about it, because if you let yourself get lost in the crazy, then it
Yeah.
just doesn't get done. But no, it's a great group of people to be working with and for, and I consider myself very lucky.
yeah, it's an awesome operation. Is it pretty common for you to have to fix things in the music edit? Whether it's lifting from another cue or a previous show when something isn't working?
Yeah, I mean, so, again, with the producer not seeing the music until the final mix, it definitely affects, there's a lot of things that have to happen, and so between myself and Otley and his team, we kind of divide and conquer, and whatever makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is like, we just want to start earlier or later, or maybe the piano comes in, 4 bars later.
Sure.
Or, things like that. That's easy stuff.
Right.
I just handle that.
Right.
And then when it gets into like recomposition or replacing cues, that is kind of whoever can get to it fastest.
And how
Sometimes-
frequently does that happen, you think?
Yeah, I mean, we generally change at least 2 or 3 things after every mix.
Okay.
Maybe not a complete swap out,
Sure.
but we just played back FBI yesterday, and Otley had to replace the end cue. It's more of a crescendo and a little bit more of a moment for the ending of the show. And there was another cue that he felt started a little late, so I did that. And, and I think that was it. Yeah, that was about it. It was actually a really good playback. So it worked out well, because I got to go to my Tool concert.
Yeah, jealous. I mean, you're kind of in your own world, churning this stuff out. Is there much cross-pollination between other music editors? Is there a kind of there's kind of a pseudo fraternity of composers. I mean, where there are, places where they kind of cross-pollinate a little bit. Do you find that with music editors, or are you kind of existing in your own world a little bit?
It's a fairly solitary gig, unless you're on something that's particularly big and you can work on, have several music editors working, which is always kind of nice to have. I worked on Pitch Perfect 3 with Dan and Oliver, who I started out with. And like two or three summers ago, we did Pitch Perfect 3, and they brought me on to help out, and that was kind of great to like be a part of that
Yeah.
team. And there's so much music, you know, you have the on-screen stuff, the
Yeah.
songs, the score to deal
Yeah.
with. You just need hands,
Right.
to get at it. That being said, I think there's at least a fair amount of us who do try to like at least talk to each other and
Yeah.
share tools of the trade and tips and
Yeah, I mean, do you see
commiserate
things?
and things. So I find, you know, I've tried to cultivate a bit of a community in my world, and I feel like there's other music editors doing that, and we kind of try to collide those worlds. There's a group of independent music editors that have been doing it a lot longer than me, and they've kind of built this little community that we can all ask each other for advice, whether it's making a deal on a film, or you know, you have a suggestion for a temp music cue, or you know, I'm looking for something in this vibe, or have you ever worked with this composer and that. It's a nice resource to have, because there's a lot of other music editing companies out there, and they have an infrastructure behind them, and then there's just some of us that are just kind of in our little islands, and we've kind of all come together to feel like we have a bit of an infrastructure in that sense, and it's nice. It gives you a little sense of community. And, you know,
so it's in a lot of ways it's similar to the composing side, where you have some guys who are totally independent, some guys who have their own independent company with teams, and then like in your case, you're actually, I don't know if you would say on staff, but you're like permanently in that role, more or less. Is that accurate? Or
I mean,
or do you work independently and it's just, you know, that's your main gig?
I mean, it just happened that I landed on these Wolf Film shows thanks to a music editor who needed some help, and so for my specific situation, it's been weird because I worked mostly on films and a few cable shows for the first half of my career, and then here I am 8 years into this Wolf Entertainment universe.
That's a long time to be doing the same thing.
And it's like, oh, okay, this is a different thing, but it, you know, there's something to be said for, again, working for really good people. Knowing you have those shows come every September. You know, you can take time off in the summer if you want, or take a.
They go from September until how long is it?
It's about May.
Okay, that's a pretty long season.
And so you have a couple of months off. And I always say I'm not going to work, and then I usually end up find a project to work on. But this last summer I actually took more time off. I was able to score a short film with a good friend of mine.
Oh wow!
So that was a nice opportunity to be creative and the time off. Because while a lot of the things I do are creative, it's not as creative, obviously, as generating music. And that's the one thing I find I start to miss about halfway through the season is some sort of creative outlet. Trying to find better ways to use all those tools that are sitting in my studio, and even if it's just for myself, to just make some noise and get some enjoyment out of music for a minute. But you know, it's always nice.
Because that's part of what makes you a great editor, I'm sure, is your musical knowledge and understanding things on a deeper level. I mean, so it goes without saying. Has the growth of like the Netflix and Amazon studios, has that changed the landscape at all, or does that not affect where you
I think
sit?
we're in I tell people I feel like we're in a golden age of content, which is kind of great if you're looking to work in this business or stay busy. I feel like there's a lot of jobs out there, and most of the people I know seem to be working pretty consistently. Busy. The flip side of that, with the streaming of it all, the money isn't always necessary though, which is interesting because Netflix is making shows left and right, and clearly they have money, whether it's borrowed or however they're doing it. They're creating a lot of content and spending money on it. But I find a lot of the shows they don't pay quite as well. They don't pay badly, but it's an adjustment. So it's like there's a lot of things out there, but you got to fight a little bit more. And then of course on the composing side with the streaming, the royalty situation is nothing like what it was features, especially on the TV side. So that's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out as things kind of finish going that direction. We're there. And that's another thing that's really interesting on the shows that I'm on. It's kind of like to me, I feel like it's like the last network dramas. We're in that era.
Yeah.
And these shows are going to go as long as they'll go, and with Wolf, they could go forever. SVU is in season 21, but at a certain point, the model that they live in isn't going to exist anymore.
Yeah.
You know, people aren't going to have cable boxes. They're going to have streaming boxes, or it's built into their TV. You know, and Dick Wolf will find a way, I'm sure, to migrate that over. But it changes a bit of what it is. You know, so it's another thing that's really interesting working on these shows, to me at least, is as you see things moving around, where do those fit in?
Yeah.
But you know, we have 8 to 9 million, 10 million eyeballs watching it every week. So.
Wow.
I guess people like the shows.
That's amazing.
I don't think they're going to go anywhere anytime soon, so that's wonderful.
That's awesome. They probably don't have time to do a lot of, especially larger orchestral sessions for this show. I mean, do they do some where they bring in? Do they have like a standing?
We've done like live sessions with like Martin Tillman in the past. You know, where we bring one musician in to do it. On Chicago Fire and on this most recent crossover, we have a guitar player we use to do a lot of the ambient kind of pulsing and you know, these cool drone effects and things on the guitar that adds at least a bit of human life to it. But these shows usually don't afford the luxury of having too many live players on them. But where we can, where it makes sense in a particular cue or a particular show, we'll do it. But I would say 95% of the time it's all in the box.
It's too fast.
Yeah. You know, and they've really Otley came up with Mike Post, who wrote all the Wolf film shows early on. You know, and he worked on a lot of shows with Mike and had to be very economical, let's say, with writing and you know, you have to get the point of the story across, make the cue sound full, but there's no time to like overthink or build things to an insane arrangement. It's very efficient and also very effective, and I think Otley nails that every week, and it blows my mind.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive because to be in service of the shows on demand like that, especially when it's like, hey, write an emotional cue. You've got about an hour to rewrite an emotional cue. We got to put this in and it airs tomorrow. Yeah. You know, it's like you don't have time to just sit and conceptualize and go deep. You just have to drop in and pull from that well immediately. And I don't know, Otley seems to do that incredibly well.
That's
it blows
impressive.
my mind. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of things. He's got a lot of experience, and then he's got a relationship with the executive producer, and he just ultimately knows what the client wants.
That's half the battle.
And that all of those things combined seems to be why we've been so successful.
Yeah, it's a big part of the show for sure. Well, cool. Well, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
It was awesome.
Yeah. All right.